All right, today we're going to talk about representation and all the white male bodies involved in Minnesota's political system. So it's Wednesday, May 27th, and 2 days ago, George Floyd was murdered by a white police officer. George Floyd was a black man. And now we have a situation where a black body was murdered by a white body, and we're now relying on white bodies in a higher political power to hold that white body police officer accountable. We have Mayor Jacob Frey, white male, Governor Tim Walz, white male, and District Attorney, DA, Mike Freeman, white male. And the picture is interesting in that we have obviously a legacy of white supremacy that has built this country, created the economy and its education systems, litigation, law enforcement, and whatnot. And now we are counting on the same identities that are basically the representation of whiteness to hold whiteness accountable. So this gets a little bit tricky in that I guess the question just has to be asked, what do you want political power to look like in your city or in your state? Do you want it to look like people that can absolutely empathize with others that are walking the city, that can absolutely empathize with people that are on the short side of racial disparity or on the short side of gender discrimination or whatever have you, in any stratification? And so in talking about Black Lives Matter, Black Power, Black is Beautiful, and the Black identity in general, you also have to reference the white identity. And it is no small wonder that our governor is a white male. It's no small wonder that our mayor in Minneapolis is a white male and that our DA is a white male. And if you look at the trajectory or the reverse trajectory of all three of those white men, how did they get into that position of power? You would be able to find that there is a definitive line and pathway that has leaned heavily on white supremacy, power, rank, and privilege to get into that role. So that then brings us to today, Wednesday, May 27th. And you're probably listening to this way after this day, and things have maybe vastly changed, I'm not sure. But the idea of they're going to bring justice to this white police officer. And I spoke about this in a past video. What does justice look like to you? My question to you, though, is what does political power, rank, and privilege look like to you, and how can it look going forward? And what do you want it to look like? We ask ourselves, what can we do? How can I help? How can I support? Where is my agency? Can I do anything even? The answer is absolutely yes. And sometimes you may have to wait a little bit until the next election happens, or sometimes you don't have to wait at all for the election, and you can begin that process right now. And it's not to say, hey, run every white male out of office, regardless of partisanship. It's also it's to say what identity or what people could represent my interests or the work that I hope to see, the change I hope to see in my city. Who else could do that? Is there anybody other than a white male that could help this cause and maybe even better and maybe understand it better because they're not a white male? And you also have to engage with visibility brings about a sense of action and self-image as well. Because as people of color and people who are not white male bodies, not seeing ourselves in these positions, does that then make us feel like we're not worthy of those positions? When you see the litany of white males that have been president throughout this country's history, all but removing Barack Obama, representation is definitely something that has power, and the visibility can psychologically impact everybody. And so looking at this situation where the one person of color in all the people that I've spoken about that is in this situation is the one person that is dead, and that is George Floyd. So when we talk about that, now we have white police officer, white male mayor, white male governor, and white male DA that are going to come and hold, this byproduct of white supremacy to some accountability. Does that work for you? Is that enough for you? Can it be better? Do you believe that their form of justice is going to be your form of justice? Do you believe that their form of change is your form of change? And I would really love you to speak to that in the comments below, and just tell me how you feel about that. Like really, really sound off. Because I think what's going unremarked about is the overwhelming majority of white media outlets in Minnesota, the overwhelming majority of white reporters and journalists in Minnesota, all reporting on this violent act that is a byproduct of white supremacy. And do you believe that more people of color should be involved, or more people of color, should have a stake and a say in some type of agency in this? Yeah, I would really love to hear what you think about that. I hope that you're well. I hope that everybody's staying safe out there, and we will most definitely see you in the next video. Later.